Space was quiet. Too quiet. On the edge of the galaxy, far from the busy space lanes and trade routes, an old alien listening post floated in the dark. It was called Station IX-47, and it had one job: watch the dead zones. No one liked this job. Nothing ever happened here. Most of the galaxy believed these places were empty, silent, forgotten. But today, something changed. Commander Sarn, a tall blue-skinned officer of the Virex Empire, sat alone in the control room. He was bored, sipping on his bitter root tea, when a soft beep broke the silence. His eyes snapped to the screen. Incoming signal detected. Source: Sector 001, Sol System. Sarn frowned. Sol System? He tapped the panel. Computer, confirm signal source. Confirmed. Signal repeating. Origin: Planet Earth. His blood ran cold. Earth was supposed to be dead. Destroyed 300 years ago in the last war. Burned, bombed, and buried. The humans were declared extinct. The galaxy had moved on. But now, a voice came through the static. This is Earth. We are alive. Repeat. This is Earth. We are alive. The message was old, broken, like a ghost whispering from the grave. Sarn leaned forward. Is this a trick? He muttered. He opened a secure line to Galactic Command. The screen showed a sharp-eyed officer from Central Intel. I'm picking up a signal from Earth, Sarn said. Should I investigate? The officer didn't even blink. Ignore it. Probably an echo or a data ghost. That system is dead. But the signal is fresh, Sarn insisted. It's not bouncing from debris. It's coming straight from Earth. The officer's voice turned cold. I said ignore it, Commander. This conversation is over. The screen went dark, but Sarn couldn't ignore it. He stood up and walked to the observation window. In the distance, stars burned like tiny suns. Somewhere out there, Earth still existed. And it was calling. He opened the classified archive. Using his command code, the logs were dusty, old, forgotten. But deep inside, he found a file named Terran Conflict Final Report. He opened it. Photos, reports, and videos flashed across the screen. Images of war, chaos, and something worse, humanity in battle. They were not the biggest species, not the smartest, not even the most advanced, but they were the most dangerous. In every report, one thing stood out. Humans were unpredictable. One soldier exploded his own ship to destroy a fleet. Another used her own dying body to jam an enemy reactor. Some fought even after losing limbs, refusing to stop until death. One alien general wrote in his final message, "They do not fear pain. They do not fear death. They fear nothing." Sarn sat back in his chair, eyes wide. Was this the truth the galaxy had buried? He sent a secret message to a small explorer drone, a stealth unit with long-range capacity. Destination: Sol System. Objective: investigate Earth. As the drone flew into the void, Sarn kept reading. More logs, more stories, more horror. The last human transmission recorded before Earth went dark was, "We are not gone. We are waiting." 3 days later, the drone sent back its first report. Images of Earth. But something was wrong. The planet looked different. Not destroyed, not dead, but changing. Strange black towers stood across the continents. They pulsed with red energy. There were no cities, no radio signals, no signs of normal life. But then, the camera zoomed in. A figure appeared. A human, tall, scarred, and calm. He wore no helmet, no armor, just dark clothes. He stood in a place that should have been radioactive, breathing the toxic air like it was fresh wind. Then he looked straight at the drone, not scared, not surprised. He smiled. And then he waved. The drone's signal cut off. Sarn stood frozen. What are you?" He whispered to the silent stars. Behind him, alarms began to beep. Multiple unknown energy signals detected across dead zones. One by one. Across old war zones, similar signals began to appear. The past was not dead. The humans were not gone, and now they were waking up. The stars outside Station IX-47 blinked. In silence, unaware of the storm that was quietly brewing within its metal walls. Commander Sarn stood still, staring at the frozen frame of the human captured by the drone, his calm eyes, the strange confidence in his smile, and that simple, terrifying gesture, a wave. It was not a greeting, it was a message, a warning, or perhaps an invitation. That smile haunted Sarn through the long night. He tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw that man again, alive, watching, waiting. When morning arrived, Sarn didn't head to the command deck. Instead, he walked alone to the hidden floor, deep below the station's core. Only commanders had access here. This place was known by many names and whispers: the vault, the truth floor, the black room. He placed his hand on the scanner. Door unlocked with a soft hiss, and he stepped into the cold, dark room filled with ancient terminals. Dust danced in the dim light. This part of the galaxy's history had been locked away, buried under lies and fear. He spoke to the terminal. Open all files on humanity. Remove redactions. Authorization, level Omega. The terminal blinked for a few seconds, then responded, access granted. For hours, Sarn stood in silence, reading forgotten documents, watching faded videos, and listening to voices of long-dead commanders. Every report told the same story of a war so brutal, so one-sided, that the galaxy had no choice but to erase it. Centuries ago, the humans had appeared suddenly on the galactic map. No warning, no contact. They just arrived, building, expanding, exploring. At first they were friendly, curious, loud. But then, something happened. No one knew who fired the first shot. Some blamed the insectoid hive, others blamed the humans. But once it began, it did not stop. The hive was one of the strongest species in the galaxy. They moved like one mind, attacked in swarms, and devoured entire civilizations. Everyone feared them. Everyone stayed away from their space. Everyone. Except the humans. The Terran hive war should have lasted a week. Instead, it dragged on for decades. No one understood why. The humans kept fighting, adapting, changing, learning. Every time the hive evolved a new weapon, the humans countered it within days. Not months, days. They didn't have better technology. They just thought differently. While other species valued honor, stability, or balance, humans cared only about survival and victory. They used broken ships as bombs, tricked enemy sensors with heat signatures from dead soldiers, and even turned entire moons into traps. There was a report from a Varek spy who had secretly watched a human war council. The humans were laughing while planning an attack that would likely kill half their own soldiers. When asked why they weren't afraid, one of them replied, "Because fear doesn't help us win. And if we die useful." That line echoed in Sarn's mind like thunder. Then came the Battle of Azel's graveyard, the last known clash before Earth went silent. 10 hive fleets surrounded the Terran stronghold, billions of drones. No way out. The humans knew they couldn't escape. So they turned the battlefield into a trap. They detonated every planet, every station, even their own ships. A supernova followed, consuming the entire system in fire. No one survived, or so they believed. Sarn leaned back from the console, heart pounding. These were not just warriors. They were something else. Something the galaxy had never seen before. He began to understand why these records were hidden. If the truth came out, every species would panic. The humans hadn't disappeared because they were defeated. They had chosen to vanish. One file, marked "Eyes Only," caught his attention. It was a voice recording, barely intact. A human admiral speaking in a calm, steady voice. "We are not conquerors. We are not monsters. We are what the universe made us. When you pushed us, we pushed. Back harder. When you feared us, you gave us reason to become your fear. And when you destroyed our home, we built something worse. Something patient. Sarn's hands trembled slightly as he shut off the file. Suddenly, a message alert flashed on the main terminal. It was from the drone. One final data burst before it went dark. The message was simple, just 4 words. They are still human. And beneath it, a location. It wasn't Earth. It was a small colony world, lost and forgotten, abandoned long ago. Yet now, it pulsed with energy signatures, identical to Earth's. Sarn stared at the coordinates. This wasn't over. This wasn't the end of a mystery. It was the beginning of something much bigger. The forgotten species was waking up, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. No one had spoken the word Earth in a long time. In galactic schools, it wasn't mentioned. In military academies, it was erased. In the official records, Earth was a destroyed Class 3 Terran planet. Uninhabitable, unstable, irrelevant. But now Earth was whispering again. And those who heard it felt a chill deep inside their bones. Commander, Sarn watched the coordinates blink on his screen, slow, steady, as if the planet itself was breathing. But this wasn't Earth. It was a nearby colony, forgotten during the Terran expansion phase. A small rocky world once called Mira 7, used long ago for human farming and terraforming experiments. Mira 7 had been empty for over 200 years. Or so they said. The last message from Sarn's drone placed strange energy readings there, the same readings found around Earth's new black towers. That couldn't be a coincidence. Something was happening, and Sarn knew the galaxy was looking the wrong way. Everyone feared Earth, but Mira 7? No one was watching. He didn't wait for orders this time. He launched his personal recon ship, a silent scout class, invisible to most sensors, no crew. Just him. 3 days later, he reached Mira 7's orbit, and what he saw made him forget to breathe. The planet was no longer a dust ball. It had changed. Green forests stretched across its surface like fresh paint over an old canvas. Massive structures, circular in shape, dotted the landscape. They pulsed slowly like hearts, glowing with red and blue veins of unknown energy. No life signals, but something deeper, something active. Sarn brought the ship lower, breaking through the clouds. He saw cities, not ruined or decayed, but half-buried under growing vines and moss. As if nature and machines had decided to share this world. He landed silently, in an open field near a tall needle-shaped tower. The place was quiet, no wind, no birds, no movement. It was too perfect. He stepped out, weapon ready, scanning in every direction. But nothing came. Only the sound of his own breathing inside the helmet. Then he noticed something strange. Footprints. Dozens of them. Human-sized. Fresh. He followed them to a nearby hill. And at the top, standing under a broken sun, was a child. A human child. She was maybe 9 or 10, with short black hair and gray eyes that didn't blink. She wore no shoes, no suit. Just a simple gray tunic. She looked at Sarn like she already knew who he was, and then she spoke. "You're late." Sarn froze. The girl smiled, the same kind of calm, dangerous smile he saw on the Earth drone. He slowly lowered his weapon. "Who are you?" She tilted her head. "You already know. You've read the files. You've seen the stories. You think we disappeared, but we didn't. We waited." Sarn tried to keep his voice steady. "Why now? Why return after centuries?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked up at the sky, where stars were just beginning to appear in the purple dusk. Because the galaxy never learned. It still fears monsters, but never asks what created them. Then she pointed behind him. Sarn turned, and what he saw made his heart stop. A group of humans, not soldiers, not refugees, but something new. Their skin shimmered slightly in the light. Their eyes were bright and emotionless. They stood tall, calm, unarmed, but undeniably powerful, each one different. Some looked part machine. Some carried no weapons, but Sarn knew they didn't need any. They were watching him silently, not with hate, not with anger, with patience. He realized something terrible. This wasn't a rebirth, it was a test. Humanity had never been extinct. They had gone underground, hidden in pockets of space, rewriting their own biology, adapting in silence. They had become something more, something the galaxy wasn't ready for, a species that understood war and chose peace, a race that knew fear and removed it from themselves, beings who could vanish from history just to see if anyone would be foolish enough to wake them again. And now, someone had. Sarn took a step back. The humans didn't move. The child's voice echoed once more, soft but sharp. We watched your wars. We watched your politics. We watched your fear. We listened. We waited. We counted the days. And we remembered everything you said about us. Sarn swallowed. So what happens now? The girl looked straight into his soul. Now, we return. A soft sound rose from the forest behind them, a hum. Low, steady, growing louder. Sarn turned toward the sound and saw dozens. No, hundreds of ships rising from underground. Not old ships, Terran. War machines from the past. These were new, sleek, silent, built for a purpose that Sarn could only guess. His communicator buzzed. He picked it up with shaking hands. Commander. Sarn, a panicked voice screamed. Emergency alert. Unknown vessels appearing across the outer rim, all matching old Terran tech signatures. What's happening? Where are they coming from? Sarn looked at the ships above him, their engines lighting up the sky like false stars. They're not coming, he whispered into the cum. They're already here. Asterisk, they called it the last war, a final chapter in a long book of pain. A brutal ending that no one dared to speak about for generations. They said it ended with the fall of Earth, with fire, silence, and surrender. But they were wrong. Because some wars don't end when the last bullet is fired. Some wars stay alive in memories, in fears, in shadows, and in the hearts of the ones who refused to die. Commander Sarn sat alone in his ship, high above Myra 7, as the silent fleet of human warships rose from the ground like ghosts. His hands trembled on the controls. Around him, alarms blinked. Galactic Command kept calling him for updates, but he had no words. What could he say? That the most dangerous species in the galaxy had returned, not with anger, but with purpose? That humanity had not been defeated, but had retreated by choice? That everything the galaxy believed was a carefully built lie? The humans had rewritten the rules of war. And now, they were rewriting history. Sarn accessed the data logs again, going deeper than before, diving into ancient files thought to be erased. But some things can't be deleted. Truth has a way of surviving, even when no one wants to see it. And the truth was this. The war with humanity never truly ended. It just went quiet. The first signs were always small. A scout ship disappearing near the edge of Terran space. A trade convoy sending distress signals and then vanishing. Satellite systems fried without warning. Communications blacked out. Entire colonies abandoned overnight with no signs of battle. Just silence. At first, the galaxy thought these were pirate attacks, accidents, space anomalies. But then the patterns became clear. Everything that vanished had one thing in common. It was watching Earth. The humans didn't respond with force. At first, they responded with warnings. Sometimes it was a burned message on a wrecked hull. Go back. Sometimes it was a whisper through hacked comms. Leave us alone. And sometimes it was nothing at all. Just a sudden, empty silence where once there had been life. That was humanity's new strategy. Control the fear. Own the shadows. Speak without speaking. Sarn read a report from 212 years ago, the last real attempt to invade the remains of Terran space. A joint force of 5 alien empires had sent a fleet of 600 ships. Armed with the best technology, commanded by war veterans, blessed by peacekeepers, they expected to wipe out whatever was left. They never returned. Only one broken ship, drifted back months later, no crew, no power. Only a message etched into its hull, burned into the metal with some unknown heat weapon. This war is not over, it is sleeping. The empires buried the mission. No media, no memorial. Just silence. They thought by forgetting, they would be safe. But fear doesn't sleep forever. And now, the humans were awake again. Back on Mira 7. The human child and her group of enhanced survivors stood silently in the fields, watching the stars, as if waiting for the right moment. Sarn could still feel their presence from orbit, not through sensors or scans. Through instinct, a pressure in his chest, a voice in his head whispering, "They remember." He replayed the Admiral's message. Again, the one found in the secret file. "You cannot understand us because you were never broken like us. You were born in comfort, grew in peace, built civilizations without bleeding for them. But we were forged in chaos. And when the galaxy pushed us to the edge, we didn't fall, we jumped." Sarn felt those words like fire in his veins. What kind of species writes poetry in the middle of extinction? What kind of people face the void and smile? He zoomed in on the rising human fleet. The ships weren't painted. They weren't polished. There were no flags, no colors, no emblems, just dark, sharp metal, built for one thing: war. But this war felt different. It wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It was memory. The humans had not come to destroy. They had come to remind the galaxy what it had forgotten, that peace was never earned. It was bought with blood, screams, and silence. And humanity had paid the highest price. Now they were here to collect. Sarn opened a private line to his Varek superiors. The signal was weak, but he spoke clearly. "They're back," he said. "They never left, not really. They changed, they adapted. And they waited. What do they want?" The voice on the other side asked, trembling. Sarn looked out at the stars. "I don't think they want anything. I think they're just making sure we remember what they are." He paused, "And what they can still become." The line went quiet. Sarn leaned back in his seat. Above Mira 7, one of the human ships slowly turned, not toward Earth, but toward deep space, toward the heart of the galaxy. Its engines hummed like a heartbeat, not fast, not loud, but steady. And unstoppable. It started with silence. No announcement, no broadcast, no demand. Just things stopped working. On the 5th day after the Mira 7 incident, more than 24 deep space communication relays across the Orion sector went dark. No error logs, no distress calls. Just silence, as if they had been erased, not attacked, but removed from reality. Then, on the 6th day, a trading outpost on the edge of the Kavar Belt disappeared from all star maps. It was still physically there, orbiting a small red star, but no ships could find it. The navigation systems refused to lock onto its coordinates. Pilots began to call it the Ghost Rock. By day 8, every species in the Galactic Alliance began seeing the signs, not through war, not through weapons, but through patterns, data corruption, surveillance feed blackouts, artificial intelligences going offline for minutes at a time, time-locked military vaults opening without alarms, old Terran signals hidden inside their deepest systems, playing fragments of long-dead voices. Protocol awakened, eyes open. Cycle resumed. The Alliance called it a cyber attack. The Varex Empire called it ancient revenge. But no one truly understood what was happening. Except the humans, because they had planned it all. Centuries ago, before Earth went silent, humanity had begun a secret project, a final command that would activate only if certain conditions were met. It was never built to invade. It was not a weapon. It was a signal, a whisper planted inside the machines of the galaxy, coded in a language that no alien AI could recognize, a voice buried inside every system, a ghost waiting for a heartbeat. And now, it had begun. They called it the awakening. Protocol. It started waking up the forgotten ones. Just ships. Not just stations. People. In the grand city of Mazara, the shining capital of the Jadari Union, a well-respected data analyst named Tukor suddenly stopped speaking mid-sentence. During a meeting, he froze, eyes wide. Then, without warning, he stood up, walked to the nearest console, and typed in a 12-digit code no one had ever seen before. When security tried to stop him, he looked at them and spoke in perfect Terran English. Unit 43 reporting. Protocol active. Orders received. Then he collapsed. Dozens more followed. Engineers, soldiers, mechanics, scientists. All different species. All with one thing in common: they had been living normal lives. But they were not who they seemed. During the early expansion era, humanity didn't just explore the stars. They infiltrated them, sleeper agents, genetic shadows, people grown, raised, trained, and planted, not to attack, not to destroy, but to watch. To blend into the galaxy like seeds in soil. And when the right moment came, when the signal was triggered, they would awaken. And now they were back on Mira 7. The child with gray eyes sat cross-legged on a smooth stone, humming an old Earth melody. Around her, the others stood silently. Some human, some half-machine, some something else entirely. Above them, the ships had stopped rising. They hovered in the sky like silent guardians, waiting. Are they ready? She asked the man beside her, a tall, silent figure with glowing veins beneath his skin. He nodded once. All systems report green. All nodes have responded. The gate can be opened at any time. The girl smiled. They forgot who we were, she whispered. Now they will remember. In the heart of the galaxy, the Council of Species was in chaos. Leaders from every empire gathered to discuss what many now feared. The return of the humans was not a threat. It was a reckoning. Debates turned into shouting matches. Some wanted to surrender before a shot was fired. Others demanded immediate action, a preemptive strike on Earth and Mira 7 to stop whatever was coming. But the problem was, there were no clear targets. Earth was still silent. No weapons fired. No invasions. No destruction. Only disruption. And that was worse. Because now, the galaxy was afraid of a shadow, and shadows don't bleed. A Jadari ambassador slammed his hand on the table. We need to understand what they want. What do the humans want? Number. One could answer. But Sarn knew, still orbiting Mira 7, watching the ships, watching the people below. He finally understood what this was. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't conquest. It was a message. We see you. We never stopped seeing you, and now we want you to see us. This wasn't about winning a war. This was about changing the balance. Humanity didn't need to fight to gain power. They just needed to remind the galaxy that they were still here, still watching, still capable of becoming monsters if the galaxy tried to turn them into prey again. The awakening protocol wasn't an attack. It was a warning. The sleeping giant had opened its eyes, and it was not angry. Not yet, but it was awake. Fear doesn't knock on doors. It seeps in through the cracks. No alarm sounded when the first Zilari battlecruiser disappeared. It had been patrolling neutral space, routine, calm, uneventful. Then, without warning, its transponder shut off. Its last message was only 5 seconds long, whispered into the void before silence claimed it. We found something. That was it. No explosion. No debris. Just gone. 2 more ships followed. Then 6. Then 20. all near abandoned Terran zones, once quiet graveyards of war, now suddenly full of whispers. Radar readings showed shadows moving between stars. Energy pulses flickered for seconds, then vanished. No signatures, no heat trails, and no survivors. Across the galaxy, every species began to feel the same invisible hand pressing down on their necks. The humans weren't attacking cities. They weren't dropping bombs or firing weapons. They were doing something. Worse, they were being seen, and yet not seen. They were reminding the galaxy of what fear felt like on the planet Tovar Prime. A once proud military academy shut its gates for the first time in 400 years. The reason? A group of cadets received anonymous packages containing old Earth War journals, handwritten, stained with dried blood, and filled with brutal sketches of Terran strategies. No one knew how they got past security. But on the last page of every journal, there was the same line: "We are what you made us." On Station Viridian, located in the peaceful Lothian sector, a popular news AI broke its programming during a live broadcast. It began reading names, human names, one after another. Soldiers, engineers, civilians, all listed as deceased in the last war. After 48 minutes, the AI froze, then whispered in a voice not its own, "You buried ghosts. Now they walk." The panic wasn't loud. It was quiet. It was subtle. Trade routes slowed. Border patrols doubled. Rumors spread faster than light. Systems near old Terran space began to evacuate. Civilians started fleeing from colonies once praised as the future of peace. Because peace, they realized, had always been built on a lie, the lie of safety, and that lie was now crumbling. The Galactic Council, once confident, proud, untouchable, met in secret on a hidden moon orbiting the gas giant Erendis. The chamber was dark, shielded from all outside signals. The 5 ruling species sat around a circular table, their faces pale, eyes wide, voices hushed. They were no longer discussing war. They were discussing fear. "The humans have done nothing," spat Grand Admiral Volker of the Zalari Dominion. "No attacks, no threats, no demands. Yet we are the ones trembling." "They've done enough," replied Kavleen, the elder mind of the Jidori. "They've made the galaxy uncertain. And that's more dangerous than any weapon." A hologram of Earth hovered in the center of the table, dark, still, untouched. Its surface remained unreadable, covered by those mysterious black towers. "Are they planning to attack?" One voice asked. No one answered. Then came the transmission. Direct signal. No encryption. No deception. Just a clear, deliberate message sent across the galactic network. From Earth. The voice was calm, female, human. "We do not seek war. We do not want to conquer. But we will not be hunted again. We will not be forgotten. We have seen your strengths. We have studied your weaknesses, and we are ready for both." The signal ended. No follow-up. No contact, just a single message, but it felt like thunder inside the hearts of everyone who heard it. On the moons of Shisari, riots broke out. On Yolnaris, a planetary governor resigned live on air, claiming, "They are in our systems. They are watching us. They are inside our minds. No evidence. No attacks. Just fear." Back on Mira 7, the child sat in silence beside one of the new towers, now fully awake and humming softly. She stared up at the stars, sensing the fear growing across the galaxy like a slow burning fire. "The others are afraid," said one of the hybrids beside her. She nodded. "That's not new. They've always been afraid of us. Even when we were allies, especially then." She closed her eyes and listened, not with ears, with something deeper. A pulse, like a wave, moving through the fabric of space. Every ship, every station, every being, they were all feeling it now. Truth was simple. The humans had never truly left. They had become part of the structure. part of the systems, part of the myths and stories whispered to children to scare them into obedience. But now, they were stepping out of those stories. They were stepping back into the light, and the galaxy didn't know what to do. On a distant world, a soldier who once fought in the Terran War sat alone in a quiet room. He was old now, forgotten, useless. But when he saw the human signal, he smiled. "They're back," he whispered. "And the stars will never be the same." Then he stood, walked to a locked box under his bed, and opened it. Inside was a Terran-made blade, rusted, heavy, real. He picked it up and said 4 words, spoken by warriors long ago: "Fear is the first step." The stars above Earth were no longer quiet. For centuries, they had blinked softly over a dead world, a blue planet wrapped in silence and shadow. The galaxy had stopped watching it, stopped fearing it. Earth had become a ghost, and like most ghosts, it was easier to forget than to face. But now, the silence had ended. Across the rim of Terran space, thousands of vessels appeared. They didn't jump in. They rose from under moons, out of asteroid fields, and from within planetary cores. Ships shaped like daggers, towers, wings, and beasts, all unlike anything seen before. They weren't old warships rebuilt. These were new, designed in the dark, forged in waiting, and they moved with purpose. They weren't rushing. They weren't charging. They were approaching Dot as if they had all the time in the universe. On board Station Varex 13, a high-orbit military outpost, Commander Lita stood at the observation deck, her eyes locked on the incoming Terran fleet. Dot. There were no declarations of war, no demands, no ultimatums. Dot. Just presence. That was worse, she whispered under her breath. This is what fear really looks like. Beside her, data analysts tried to track the fleet's formation. But the patterns made no sense. "They're not forming battle lines," one technician said. "It's like they're weaving." "Weaving?" Lita asked. "Yes, ma'am. Their movement, it's symmetrical, fluid, artistic. Almost like a dance." She stepped closer to the glass. The Terran ships moved like a school of predators. Each twist and turn was intentional. Silent coordination. No wasted motion. Dot. It wasn't war. Dot. It was expression. Dot. In the heart of the galaxy, panic had turned to paralysis. The Galactic Council had stopped broadcasting. Media outlets looped old footage. Civilian flights were grounded. Trade halted. Border stations locked down. Because no one knew what to do. Dot. How do you defend yourself from a species that hasn't attacked? How do you fight something that doesn't need to speak to be heard? How do you stand your ground when the ground itself is shaking beneath you? In private, the word was spreading: surrender. Not from fear of violence, but fear of being forgotten. If the Terrans had built all this in silence, in hiding, what else could they do? What couldn't they do? But Earth. Earth remained quiet. It sat at the center of the growing fleet, like a king holding court. Its black towers now fully active, reaching into the sky like claws wrapped around the planet. And then, without warning, they pulsed. Once. A ripple moved through space. Every Terran ship stopped. And then came the message, the final signal, broadcast across every frequency, into every language, translated instantly into thought and tone and fear. "We offered peace. You answered with silence. We asked for memory. You buried us. We gave you centuries to grow. You used them to lie." The voice was not angry. It was calm. Tired. Ancient. It continued. "We are not your enemy. We are your reflection. Everything you fear in us lives inside you. We simply had the courage to become it." And then the final line, one that would echo across the galaxy forever. "We are not back. We never left. We are the storm, and the storm has no master." On every world, silence followed. Some cried, some kneeled, some stood frozen. Some The bravest saluted. And then the Terran ships began to move again, but not toward the capital worlds, not toward fleets or cities. They moved away, toward the unexplored sectors of space, toward the dark, the unknown. They weren't here to conquer. They were leaving because they had made their point. They didn't need planets. They didn't need thrones. They didn't need revenge. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was eternal. Not because of power, but because of memory. Because of will. Because they refused to be forgotten. The war hadn't resumed. Because the war had already been won, in the shadows, in the silence, in the minds of those who now trembled under skies they no longer trusted. The humans had done the impossible. They had returned as a myth, and left as a warning, somewhere on a backwater moon, in a quiet bar where no one asked questions. An old mercenary sat alone with a glass of dark ale. He had one hand and one eye. The rest was replaced, stolen from wars long forgotten. He watched the Terran ships fade from the news feeds. Then he smiled. They didn't come to destroy, he muttered. They came to remind us what it means to be hunted. A younger soldier beside him asked, "So it's over?" The old mercenary laughed, slow and bitter. "No, kid, it's never over. Not with them. It's just their way of saying." He raised his glass toward the stars. "Behave.